So basically, I mean, she's supposed to. Her family understand that she went through a trauma when she witnessed this massacre that happened on the boat. I mean, it's a little bit of a sell, we know that it is a distinct look, but actually walking around Vancouver, I have seen a couple of people that post-shooting this I'm now very suspicious of, because there is some amazingly fair skin and white hair kind of combinations. So, yeah, Liv has kind of embraced that is her new look. She doesn't try to diet or hide it. This is who she is now. So that's sort of the look. And yeah, she does get there are a few snarky comments made by new people we meet in the script that kind of allude to her colouring, but yeah, we play it off as humour rather than investigate that too much.
Does her colouring change regarding like how recently she's eaten brains?
The only thing that does is around the eyes. They get darker and redder, and then CGI put in contacts. We don't use contacts. We tried contacts in the pilot, but we actually managed to get the best effect with post-production. So we've got this milky kind of eye colour that comes in as well. And those are the two very significant things that happen when she hasn't had brains. And also you see more prominent veins.
Is there a sense that she's the only person who's like this, or is this semi-regular in the zombie-adjacent community?
As far as we know, that's why initially she really does think she's the only person out there. She has no idea that anybody else... I mean, I guess she knew she potentially contracted zombieism from someone, but she doesn't really know that there's a community out there at all. And so, yeah, throughout the first few episodes, you start to kind of get hints of whether there are, what they look like, how they manage to hide it, all those sorts of things.
She gets a bit of hope in the pilot that there is the chance that she can be cured from this. How does that change her mindset going forward?
Well, I think it gives her a sense of purpose, and it feels to me like the fact that she is a zombie is almost... I mean, to me, that wasn't what drew me to her in the first place. It's the fact that coming out of college and relationships fall apart or things change and you have massive questions about your identity, and changes in circumstance make that happen. And she now has to rediscover herself, and in the course of the pilot she does, and she finds this way that she can use who she's become and where her circumstances have landed her to kind of contribute to her community and to have some fulfillment in life. And I think we all do that. So it's just a fairly bizarre example of it, which brings a lot of novel fun.
Are you excited to potentially get an older skewing audience since she is coming out of college versus being like a 16-year-old recruited in high school?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's the kind of thing that various people will enjoy for very different reasons. I mean, age range, but also genre interests. When I try to explain what the show is, and you sort of hit, like, we call it a zomcom and zombie, and like, I mean, it really does have, and because of the nature of when I eat your brain, something different happens each episode, and incorporate these different characteristics. It can go in very different genre directions. It can be kind of horror, or it can have remnants of like tragedy and romance, or it can have action. We have like some great action sequences, but there definitely is something to appeal, I feel, to very different kind of audiences.
You see in the pilot, you know, you're on top of the car, you take a bullet. There are some almost superpowers through this, and what you're hearing, you kind of get to show that off a bit as you go forward, right?
Yeah, so far. I mean, it's funny when you get given a script and it says like, oh, this is what Liv's eating this brain this time, and these are all the things she can do. And I'm like, I never auditioned showing that I could be a concert pianist or whatever it may give me. So it's been quite a wonderful test, and I have managed to learn like a ton of different skills. It's like a bit of an actor's dream to be able to wear a different hat each episode and learn these different things. But yeah, there's definitely a very physical component. I used to dance growing up, and I've done quite a few shows with a lot of action in them, so I like that. Well, Vancouver, I nearly called this Wellington. Vancouver winter is going to be different for some of the outdoor sequences with action in the rain, but it's a challenge I look forward to.
Does she act, is the behavior, is it not just the sort of things they could do, but is she acting like those people?
Yeah, it comes out, depending on the brain she eats, it can be that person's languages or accents or interests. I mean, it can happen. It's also, she has the flashes of what happened to them, so she's able to solve this crime, ideally. But part of that is, incorporating some of the characteristics into her day-to-day life, and she'll work out who that person was because of the things she suddenly starts doing. And I know in the pilot you've seen she eats the brain of a kleptomaniac and is stealing things or speaking Romanian, and each episode there is the ability to explore that. So the poor writing department have had like us pitching ideas like crazy. We're like, when does she eat a musical brain? And when do we do a musical episode? And when does she eat the brain of a ... So there's a real wealth of ideas that they can explore.
What kind of brain are you really hoping to eat if you want to try out? And what are you going to put it on top of, like ramen?
Okay, somebody just like who lives at a spa and gets massages all the time and gets waited on hand and foot. I'd like that brain. Don't think it's coming anytime soon.
What are the brains actually made of that you're eating?
Have you guys had a taste test?
No.
That's after.
We heard it's made of gelatin.
Oh, you ate some brain?
We've had some different, it's been trial and error. We've really got it down to something a lot better than it was. It's like agar, coconut kind of gelatin, and the weak spot is the hot sauce, which we have used V8 tomato juice kind of stuff, vegetable juice. And that with gelatin is just a combination you're never going to love. But it's fine. It's definitely not unbearable, and I have spit buckets on hand. People are very patient with me. But what is quite fun is that each episode spices up how she wants to eat her brains. She doesn't eat them all the same way. So like she might blend them or have them in a taco, or we get to kind of see how she's trying to still have a varied and interesting diet despite quite a strange requirement.
Was she a good cook before she had to start trying all these different ways?
We haven't looked back at that yet at all. I mean, I think I made the decision that she was quite a recipe follower. She's not a cooker with flair, She's like, she does things by the book, and she kind of does that even with the brains, which is quite funny. They're quite traditional meals in some senses.
So she has like a really strange Pinterest board full of recipes for
Oh
brains.
my gosh, that's what we should start actually.
Yeah.
We need to get our social media department starting a Liv's Pinterest board. Brilliant.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Write that down.
You mentioned the things that you didn't do in your audition. What did you do? What did you go in looking like?
Well, funnily, I mean, the zombie thing was never part of the audition. They were really interested in just knowing that we could create a character who was still likable, was not your typical leading lady. She didn't look the same as we expect people to look in kind of a lot of television shows. We wanted her to be able to be kind of sarcastic and wry, but still be likable. And so the scenes are really relationship scenes and dialogue scenes that kind of incorporated that. Some of the conflict with Major, or I don't know what the other ones were. Scenes with Peyton. But yeah, the zombie thing kind of grew quite organically. It was really just wonderful that it worked out. And what's strange is everybody's instincts have been quite similar in terms of how we view, like when I ask people how they think the zombies are going to sound, it's not like zombies I've seen in anything else, but everybody has kind of incorporated it, like used the same sort of noises. So it's quite, we've got a very specific sort of aesthetic, a specific like idea of how zombies behave and who they are. And I think part of it is very much like in Buffy, how the vampires are able to hide and hide to an extent who they are. We play with that. And that's sort of
Well, what was the sort of workshopping of the look that you have now? Like, were there variations on this, or was this what it was?
Oh no, we definitely had some variations. All of the pre-production, I was still working on a project in LA, so we were kind of doing it on the weekends, and it was very dense, and we had to try like a lot of different looks. There were a lot of ideas of where we could go. And weirdly, what we've created, I feel like, is really nicely comparable to live in the comic books, which really mattered to me, and I think is nice to incorporate. But we played with different ideas. I mean, I had one long white wig where I looked like a sort of aging male rock star when I put it on. I was like, we'll take the photos, we'll see how that one lands. Didn't get picked up, obviously. But we did play around with lots of different things. The pigment and the hair were definitely things we knew we wanted, but the sheen, because that's another really difficult thing, is trying to get something that's not just grey looking, but like is luminous and white. And then with the different lighting setups that we have, the DP has had to work a lot hand in hand with the makeup department to make sure, for example, in the morgue, it can look way more blown out than in warm lights of this room. So that was a bit of a fine-tuning that happened in the first couple of weeks.
And how much time does this all take?
About an hour 40, I think.
And is that reduced already from?
Yes, the pilot, it took longer. We've got it down to an art. They wrap like incredibly quickly my hair underneath, and I cut my hair shorter, which helps. There's less to hide. And yeah, we airbrush, and we have like, it's a bit of a process to get it off again at the end of the day. And because the airbrush like kind of sticks in your skin, no matter how much I shower and scrub, sometimes I'll be going for a run along the seawall and I'll look down at my legs and realise why people are looking at me so strangely. There's these like very white streaks and like still kind of a normal coloured face for me, and yeah, it's definitely bled into my weekends.
Did you check out the iZOMBIE comic books upon getting the role, and is there an aspect of the comic that you'd like to see on the TV show?
Yeah, absolutely. We as soon as I got the job and I was flying up here, pretty immediately, kindly I got sent all of the graphic novels, and they're brilliant. I mean, it took me a long time to adjust to reading them. I wasn't from the only graphic novels I'd read growing up was Sandman. My brother gave me those when I was about 13, the Sandman Chronicles, but I'm not super familiar with the format, so it's a little bit of an adjustment. I'm a real novel reader, but I found them. I just really enjoyed it. I think that her character very much is brought into this show as well in terms of being pretty sassy. She doesn't take too much bullshit from people. She's vulnerable, but she's not a pushover by any stretch. She's not your damsel in distress. She is a bit of a warrior and dealing with something that most people, hopefully no one in the world deals with, as far as I know. But yeah, I think that the comics established something so wonderful that we really wanted to draw from that everything that we could. Obviously, when a TV show is just such a different format, and certain things are increased and certain things are not explored the same way on the show, but that's very much been a part of the process and present in all of our minds.
Can you talk a little bit about her strained relationship with her roommate and with her fiance, and how she's going to be acting around them? Absolutely.
I mean, nobody knows. Nobody knows. In the pilot, her colleague finds out, and that's it. And so she is very isolated from them. It's that horrible thing that we have when you have a secret, and none of us hopefully have a secret like that, but it's anything that you kind of have a bit of a barrier up, and they don't understand that she's dealing with all of this stuff, and are pretty disappointed in her, to be honest. She's had to back away from her relationship with her fiance. She's convinced she'll give him zombieism, and so it's a pretty tortured, like, conflicting connection, but they definitely work to maintain some sort of connection. She tries to honour them in every way she can, and she's able to be close to them in many ways the more that she gets a strong sense of her own identity and who she can be. Her family and her friends still matter to her very, very profoundly. So yeah, we get to see that. She has a great sense of humour that she shares with both of them in different respects, both Peyton and Major. So yeah, we explore that in the next couple of episodes that you'll see.
Well, as she's kind of getting into the police work of it all, is she interacting at all with any of these victims' families, and is she feeling any regret for eating these people's family members or friends' brains, even if it is to help solve a crime in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an awareness that it's her cross to bear, and she doesn't love having to eat a brain to do it, but she's ethical. She's done it the best way she possibly can. She works in a morgue. There's an amazing amount of respect, and we actually had a really interesting thing before we started. Raoul and I don't know if he's told you, we went to a morgue and learned as much as we could about the things like how you hold a scalpel, or the practice in the morgue, or the sense of humour that you have to get through your day, or all of these things that, I mean, what she's doing is actually, in the end, for their good, and she has to do it or she's going to murder. So I think she doesn't beat herself up about that too much, I don't say. I think more than anything, she's just sad that she can't be honest with the people she loves. But yeah, she hasn't. We do see interaction with family, and particularly through the police avenue, not through Rafi's avenue. But yeah, that's a challenge, and that's something she obviously wasn't trained in having to do. She wanted to be a surgeon, and so that's something that it definitely provides some of the emotional conflict for her in the show, is actually having to deal with people she knows, for example, that might be caught up in various cases.
Were you a Veronica Mars fan, and were you immediately sort of able to latch onto the similarities here with Rob and with Diane? So.
Yeah, well, what was awesome was a couple of really good friends of mine, Chris Lowell and Ryan Hansen, worked on Veronica Mars, and when this project first came up, I called Chris, and I'd been asked to test for it, and I called Chris and I said, hey Chris, like, you know, I love Veronica Mars, but I know you worked with them. What do you actually think of these people? And he was like, that's so funny, because they just called me asking the exact same thing about you. It was like, you guys just go to a room and talk about it, because this feels like high school. I was like, what do you think about them. Are they nice? Anyway, everybody raved and they said you're going to have the time of your life. And it's true, we haven't found a squeaky wheel. We have the best time on set. All of the cast and crew get along so well. It was my birthday on Friday and I've never been so spoiled in my life. The transport department set up lights and disco balls in my room and I arrived to 50 cents. Gosh, what his birthday. It was a big day. It was 68 setups of beauty. We had 4 times they sung happy birthday to me. I've just never felt somewhere where it's so collaborative and supportive and we all are loving what we do. And I think that there's that sense in Veronica Mars as well. These people in Party Down and the way they work and the producers and writers and directors that they continue to use are people who do this because they want to have a good time as much as tell a story that they think is interesting and going to be resonant with an audience. So I feel like I really landed with my bum in the butter here. It's very
My bum in the
butter. Is that a thing? Yeah.
No, we're all going to use it on that one. You just gave that to us.
There's often a lot of stuff where you say little things. Like, what are some things that you've said to your...
Well, actually, just this morning, so I said, are you having a go? And that means, like, are you picking on me, right? You used to that?
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Kind of.
We've heard it in a lot of movies,
Yeah.
so I think we like are familiar with
Right,
it.
well, somebody
part
thought
of the
that I mean,
vernacular.
are you coming on to me? And I was like, no, I mean, are you picking on me? Like, there are some very distinct lost in translation moments, but they normally provide laughs more than too much disaster.
Can you talk a little bit about why you think that this is a good time for the show to land? I was just talking to somebody else here in this group about, there's a lot of nostalgia for Buffy right now, and obviously Veronica Mars just had that big moment. Can you talk about why you think this is a good time for the show, based especially on what you've seen so far? I think you're filming 6 straight now.
We're filming 6, but I haven't seen anything. So it is a little bit blind for me, and I'm working a lot, and don't really get too much time to reflect just yet. I think when we finish, I'll be able to look back and think, oh, this is going to land this way, this way, this way. The moment when I'm sort of in the thick of it, I think what I notice is, and what Dan and Rob and Diane and Danielle all said early on was they want this to be something that has a lot of drama and has suspense and these kind of interesting unraveling plots and things that happen, but also always with a gleam in the eye. And I think that sort of sums it up. It's how I handle things too, even when something is incredibly sort of dramatic or intense that I'm going through. I do tend to find the comedy in it, and I know we can't always do that, but I think especially when we're watching television, it's nice to be able to see those moments and go through that journey and still have a sense of humour through it, and I think this show does that. So even when we're shooting some really intense stuff, there'll be moments that we just find this gleam in the eye that I think an audience will really latch onto. I actually read something in a book recently by Alan Hollinghurst, wrote this book, The Stranger's Child, and I'm trying to think, I'm going to absolutely butcher it if I try to paraphrase it, but along the lines of what is special about love is when you look up and that person is has caught your eye and acknowledged something that's going on in the room, and just you and them have a connection about it, and you've seen how funny that is or how whatever that is, and the rest of the room haven't. And I think that this is like that. These situations can be happening and the audience will feel like between the sense of humour of the show and them, there's this like special connection that is aside from all of the other stuff that's going on. And that feels to me like why it's wonderful. It's got a gleam in the eye and a good sense of humour.
Now people are going to naturally make a connection that you are Rob Thomas's new leading lady, and they're going to compare you to Kristen Bell. How does that feel?
I mean, I'm such a fan of Kristen's. It's an honour to even be put in that sort of ballpark, and I think I would only ever take that as a compliment. But I do hope that our show, we have our own spin and we have our own idea, and because we know what Rob can do, and with that show, what he has done, it's definitely a huge vote of confidence for us. But we're not trying to mirror it. We're trying to make our own thing, and there are some big differences as well. There's some grand departures from that in terms of how much we suspend reality and how much we have to suspend reality. So there definitely are parallels, and I think that the sense of humour and a lot of those, the voices, there may be similarities in voices, but Liv is a very different character to Veronica, and I think that what's great is the idea that people can keep kind of crossing over between them. I was so stoked that Ryan Hansen came up and did an episode on this. Rob Buckley and I went and did his web series. I was actually just in the trailer trying to watch the latest episode of that It's hard to get in Canada. I'm trying to work out. It's not. It's just hard for somebody who's inadequate as me on technology. And I was like, Canada TV. Anyway, I didn't watch it yet. That's something to look forward to. But I love the sense of family and the sense of, because these people work together on Veronica Mars and Party Down and various shows and work together well, there is continued crossover. So we'd love to share that fandom, obviously, and the people who enjoyed that show, we really hope enjoy ours.
Guys, we have time for one or two more questions.
Is there anything you can say about sort of the interaction between your character and Ryan? Do they have all the scenes together?
We do, and Ryan and I had the funniest moment, not on this show actually, on Play It Again Dick. We shot a scene, and I know his family super well, and I love Ryan dearly, and he and I were filming this scene, and we didn't realise we had to, well, I hadn't realised we had to kiss in it at all, and we joke a lot about how it was the best kiss we've ever had, because I leant in and he leant in at exactly the same time. We collided teeth so badly, like I actually drew blood on my own lip on the inside. I mean, we could not have had less chemistry if we tried. But he's one of my great friends, so we had so much fun and so many laughs together on that when he came up here, it was just like a continuation, and I just pinched myself. I get to work with best friends every day. Amazing.
I have to ask: is someone in CW casting just really pushing Power Rangers RPM people? Because a lot of you guys are ending up on CW.
Yeah, that's true. Adelaide. I know, and there's a couple more that I would love to end up.
Yeah.
In fact, if we're doing pitching now, yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know exactly what I can't think of a correlation, not causation, but we do. There are a few Power Rangers on this. And to be honest, that has been super helpful with some of the action sequences. We trained with an amazing Japanese stunt team for Power Rangers that when they came here, they were like, are you sure you're going to be able to do one right jab? Is that going to be okay? And I was like, I think I'll be okay. So we've been lucky with that, actually.